Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust, Christian, own, nothing, control, everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replays. Always appreciate it. This is the vault. Government trustee minority versus private trustee majority. Definitely thankful. Looking forward to this episode. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens to the episodes. This is episode 717. Always excited to do episodes for everybody that listens live, listens in the replay. This is one of those episodes that's been done by request. We had a trustee we're working with right now, and they said that most of the trustees and most people don't know the difference between a minority and a majority. A group of people or a culture of people think it's just some ex-slave designation, or you're a number situation where you're less in numbers. And government trustee minority has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with a mindset. That's why the law is based off the mind. And so it's based off of you being able to think. It's being able to you being the law is based off of you being able to process information intellectually, to be able to read, to be literate. Definitely, it is a way of elite separating themselves. As always, it is a path. How? Because if you are not able to functionally operate within various different jurisdictions because you're aware of the law or the language, then you will be able to operate successfully. If you do not, then you will not. And that's how that looks. So you get a lot of people that reach out to the vault and say, "Oh, I've been studying this stuff for a long time." Do you have a Black's Law dictionary? Have you studied the legal words yet? Are you able to have a competent legal conversation? Don't know whether they want to be the manager, the executor, the administrator, the trustee. They don't know which one they want to be because they don't know the words. But when they understand the words, then they go, "Oh, okay, this word's similar to this. This word is pretty much mean this because that's what it says." People say, "Oh, what legal dictionary? The Black's Law dictionary. What you gonna? Should I go get the most recent one?" No, they have a series of dictionaries, so there's some words that they've taken out. There's some words that have been added. So why would you not get the older versions as well? Some of the older versions that are still available. Why? Because you're doing your research. You're fortifying yourself with your knowledge and your education. You see so many people over the internet say, "Oh yeah, I need to get my financial education. We all need a financial education. Public school didn't give us a financial education." Well, public school didn't give you a financial education. You're going to have to invest in your private education, because that is what a financial education is. Financial education. Some people say, "Oh, it comes from finance and going to public school." If that was the case, ladies and gentlemen, more people will go to school. Most people will go for finance because they know that's how they're going to make some money. But because that's not the only way, then people know that's not the only way. And that's not the way to guaranteed success. They don't want to hear that either. "Oh, if I go get a degree, it's going to solve all my problems." They know it's not. Everybody knows it's not. Unless you want to work for someone. But if you want to build a business, you want to build generational wealth, preserve generational wealth, we hire those people. There's nothing wrong with that. But to say you have to have that education is not exactly entirely true. Just there might be an aspiration of an individual. So the minority, this is something that's thrown around in the public by public people, basically trying to talk down to people, which is basically saying that these individuals don't know the law, and they don't. So it is what it is, but they have no awareness of the law. They don't know how to speak in the law, and that's why the law is so intelligent. The law tells they say you don't say anything that would incriminate yourself. It says you have the right to remain silent. Correct. They didn't give you that right. You have it. Because they understand the difference between a corporation. They understand the difference between a legal person and an artificial person and a natural person. People say, "Oh, can my natural person interact with the government?" How is your natural person going to interact with the government when the government is not a living being? It is a It's a corporation of people that are managing various estates that are abandoned, and they basically are a welfare organization. They say, okay, well, if people in the area don't have things, we're going to tax the individuals that are in the public that are taking advantage of these people, quote unquote, big pharma, uh, big medical, uh, any other big oil. When you see big oil, you think about it. Are you really going to be able to get around it if you don't have an oil vehicle? At one point, there was many oils, and there wasn't as many EVs as it is right now. Sure, you might be able to get an EV at a low price, but that's the case. People would say it's monopolies. The majority knows it's monopolies. The minority hates monopolies. The minority thinks monopolies should be illegal. They don't believe in winner takes all. Well, how is it not the case when the tech winners have already showed you that? It's still happening in front of your face to this day. We in 2026, and the majority is still creating monopolies. When you think about search, who do you think about? It's not an accident. When you think about rideshare, who do you think about? When you think about online streaming services for videos and movies, who do you think about? This is a winner take all game. Oh no, Trust Christian, you don't know what you don't know. There's no way. Think about these companies. Dude, where's their second best? And the third is super far off. And you don't even know that there's a fourth in their industry. In the industry. You would think that in an industry, it's like asking you, well, who sells coffee in the morning? You know a bunch of different companies. Not necessarily monopoly. It used to be, it wasn't a monopoly, but you heard a synonymous name with coffee in the morning. Maybe used to be foragers. That's when you was making it at home. People made it at home. Then when they started commuting an hour to work, they was getting Starbucks for $4 and $5 and $6 and $7. Wasn't a monopoly though, but that business model ran out because you're trying to sell premium coffee, and the coffee wasn't that premium because they went mass production. Beautiful company, no shade to Starbucks. Majority mentality though, not minority mentality. Minority mentality says, oh man, they redline my people, so I can't go get a loan. Yeah, that's because you're not supposed to have your business where you live. That's because you're supposed to have your business and a business location and a business address where other businesses are that are getting business credit. So when they look up the business, they see that it can get business credit. That's how. It's not an accident. That's a fact. When they look up the business address, they can say, okay, are we lending to this area? Are we lending to this industry? The minority, we're going to go ahead and share with y'all what they do so you can know what the majority does. The minority doesn't set goals. They don't have plans. They're not at the city planning commission meetings. Why? Because they're not involved. The majority is running the meeting. They the ones that they didn't even create it, but they there. Somehow they there. Somehow they add value. Somehow they add in their opinion. They add in their intellect. Somehow they add in their thoughts. Now you know why the laws are the way they are. Because somebody went to the meeting and voted for the law to get put in. So when you hear certain people, certain cultures, we're going to have to say it. We're going to hurt some feelings. It is what it is. Oh man, I'm a vote as an independent. Knowing that your vote don't count. Because you a minority. That's why. That's why you are independent. You think that's, if the voting block says you have to, the voting block is set up to vote for the two main parties, why wouldn't you just do your research on the two main parties and find out who's going to be in your favor? They're not the same party. People try to say, oh, they're the same party. Do y'all hear how ignorant this sounds? They're the same party. No, they're not the same party. We're going to go ahead and talk about it today. Because this is the difference between the minority and the majority. See, the minority got you thinking low of yourself. The minority wants to scare you in fear. The minority, they want to scare you in, oh yeah, there's not enough. We need welfare. We need to take from the rich and give to the poor. The minority says Robin Hood mentality. The majority says we're divine creators. The majority says we're going to be aware of all the things because we are all the things. They step into a higher self of being. They step into what the founding fathers of the country of the United States said, which is they believed the states into existence. So they were under rule. They had to go to war to fight for their freedom. Not only that, they had a country that they started out with slaves. The country is so powerful. The country is so it's a progressive environment that they actually voted, and it wasn't Negroes that voted for the laws. The majority at that time. You had very much so a bunch of immigrants from the Western European countries, maybe some Portuguese, maybe some Spanish. Once again, Western European countries. They went to war for their slaves. But who really went to war? The minority. The minority party. They wanted to fight to keep people enslaved. Last time we checked, the majority actually said no, this isn't right, and this isn't progressive. They understood what intellect was. It's in the human being. And they couldn't judge books by their cover. Then you see, so okay, they went through a war, they got free, then they were naked free. Now all of a sudden in 1960s, they had a whole nother Civil Rights Act created supposedly. So they got another Civil Rights Act created. Why? To empower them. The minority or who the majority? Well, the majority stepped up to the plate and said, we see people as created equal. So we don't see people as demonizing them or putting them down, things of that nature. Now y'all know the realities that you may or may not feel throughout your waking day in life. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the principles and the concepts that lead you to understanding the difference between a minority mindset and a majority mindset. There is a party that wanted and did fight for slavery. They're the same party. That's the minority party. They didn't change. That's why they became their own party. Because they're the minority party. They're focused on trying to cater to illiterate people. Oh yeah, you don't know how to read. Well, what they say in the Bible, you're not supposed to give a man a fish. You're supposed to teach him to fish. Did they teach people correctly? Did they teach you correctly in finance in public school? Clearly. Did they teach you finance? Did they teach you law in public school? Clearly. Did they teach you business negotiations? No. Because it's the minority. See, the minority has been infiltrated. They've been infiltrated, which I want to call a COINTELPRO. They've been infiltrated. They've been infiltrated by some of the majority that says, hey, you know what? We're going to act like a wolf in sheep's clothing. So while you think this person is a sheep, they telling you live in a democracy. They telling you supposed to go get a job and go get in debt and buy a house. Because that's the American way. That's the philosophy you following still to this day? People don't even know how the country went bankrupt the first time. But they want to say, oh, maybe it was the stock market. Well, what was the stock market? It's a bunch of companies. Ain't y'all buying companies that have mortgages? Banks? Aren't y'all buying these stocks? Aren't y'all buying Tesla stock? Aren't y'all buying these tech stocks? Then they don't want to hear the reality of the stock market. Oh yeah, the stock market, the companies that were in the top 100, they're not even there from 20 years ago. The ones for 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they're not even in the top 10. It's new companies. Yeah, things change. Well, will it change for good or for bad? It looks like the majority is taking advantage of the moments. They're reading, they're studying the law, they're becoming aware of the words, and they use them properly. Now here we go. Some of y'all gonna say, oh, trust Christian, oh, trust Christian. It's no, oh, trust Christian, nothing. It's called, you're gonna have to correct your speech and brood your tongue, which means that you are going to Be conscious of your speech. When you speak, you are conscious. You are not using filler words sometimes, like a or a so. These are things that you. Here we go. Y'all don't even know. When we went through trustee training with our mentors, they said you got to eliminate 3 words as a trustee: would, could, and should. People don't want to hear this type of conversation. Why? Because they're not going to challenge them. They're not going to stand up to the fact that they got to make the change and actually make the change. You're going to make excuses. Oh, I'm just going to keep doing the same thing because I've been doing it my whole life. Exactly. That's the excuse. But if you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to be better, you eliminate words like try. We had a big old disagreement with one of the mentors the other day. There's a difference between the word try and do and done. But oh no, no. Well, trust Christian, you gotta try something before you do it. Yeah, okay. And that's why you still trying. Because the words matter. And it's not about sensitivity. It's about understanding. The words matter. Just like we talking about minority and majority. If you consider yourself a minority, you outrightly are stating to the public, I don't know the law. I don't know finance. Clearly. How can you be upset that people treat you a certain way? Just like when we did the episode, black people. How do you have a standing in law when you're a color and it's not even an actual depiction of you? You're not black. You're brown with some orange and some yellow and some other colors, red. These are colors that are a part of the human spectrum, but they've gotten demoted in life to that rank, but they don't know that they got to step up as a majority. It's not the number of them, it's the right people stepping up and saying, you know what, we got to go in here and get the legal description of which I don't want to hear, which is called property, updated. So how was the property updated? We'll share with y'all the list of how black people have been named as property in the United States. They've been named as property as Negro, then they were colored, then they were African American, and then they went to black. These people done went through 3 changes. Hey, if y'all want to blame the lawyers, the organizations that consider they for the culture, go ahead. But it's not about blame. It's about someone coming through the ranks, stepping up and saying, I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to make the movement happen to where these people can actually update their status from minority to majority. So they can think about it. There's other culture words. They got other anti-culture words. When you go to other cultures, there's words you can't say on the internet. And if you do, certain platforms, they'll block you. They'll flag you if you say certain words. So why is it that, which I want to call black people, African Americans, Negroes, whatever, how come other cultures get to use the N-word on the internet? You want to know why? Because we haven't tightened up. You got to tighten up. You can't use it over the internet. You can't use it in the public. Other cultures have slurs, but they don't use it in the public. And for that reason, these people aren't protected. They don't have an anti-black word. What's the anti-black word? Because every time we say somebody says something anti-black, you don't get the response you're supposed to get. Because there is no such thing right now. Because no one wanted to step up. And people are still saying it in the public. You can't say it in the public. That's the difference. Other cultures have internal slurs they use, just like other cultures got slurs that they use against other cultures. That's the reality of life. But the point being is, there got to a point where other cultures was like, nah, y'all not gonna call us these words in public. And that's that. Because if you do, we suing you and your culture. We're suing the country. We're going to the world. We're going to the world court. This is how you know these people don't have no standing. Because the people in the United States right now that call themselves black don't feel they have that type of power to go anywhere internationally and step up and say, you know what? That's an anti quote unquote cultural word. That word it should never be spoken in public. But for some odd reason, and we already know what it is, but you don't want to hear that some of the majority have come into the minority and they put sheep's clothes on, but they really wolves. They don't tell you the law, but they definitely use it. They trust Christian. No, nothing control everything. You want, yeah, some of y'all say, oh, I've been studying. For a lot of y'all that's been studying, you have definitely graduated to the majority status because you're aware of the law. It's a pat on the back. That's what we gotta do. We gotta learn the law. That's like learning the language. You think you learn the language? How you learn the language? You don't know the law. You don't know the law governing the language. Most people, they say they don't even know grammar and punctuation. So how are you going to sit here and say you're a majority or you're educated in society? Oh yeah, I have a degree. I don't know. What do you mean you have a degree? But you still don't know the law. Because there's a system in place. And this is the problem. People don't want to hear that there's a system in place. Oh man, it's a system, trust Christian. It's a solar system in place. Do you see the skies falling out of the sky? Do you see stars falling out the sky? No. You don't see planets falling out the sky? No. Everything's happening divinely and perfectly. Because it's in the system. That's a real word. Just like you went through the public school system, they got a private school system. It's a system. So once we double down and learn the system, then you are majority. Because you're not going to let somebody tell you, oh yeah, you live in a democracy. What are you talking about? How are we still talking about this in 26? Because this shows you that there's part of the population that's called the minority. We're distinguishing that. Yes, they are a minority. Why? They want democracy. They want someone to rule over them. They want someone in power. They want someone to say, oh yeah, this is the law. Instead of them going to the actual meetings and saying, you know what? You're a man just like I am, or you're a woman just like she is, and in turn, y'all actually have what they tried to call it is called civil. That's why they call you a civilian, so we can be civilized. It's interesting, we did some research real quick. We're gonna drop something on y'all real quick. We love poems, so if y'all like poems, y'all can look into a poem by a gentleman named Rudyard Kipling, and it's called "The White Man's Burden." And we're gonna do our best to put it into the chat right now. And anyone that wants to even bring up the white, think about it. That's a designation, that is a classification, and you see other individuals not espoused to that. They say, "Oh, I'm an Italian American, or I'm a Norwegian American, or I'm a German American, or whatever it is." So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the chat for y'all real quick. If any of y'all got any questions, feel free to type into the chat. Uh, y'all should see the image of this daggone thing called the white man's burden. People want to sit here and play around with it. They hear the white man, they think of a man. They hear the white man and they thinking of a man. Oh man, I heard it's the white man's birth. Still don't know nothing about it, but it's the white man. No, you got to actually read the poem. You actually got to go look at the images for the poem so you can understand that the majority is about the educated individuals carrying on their backs the ignorant individuals that don't know the law. So is it wrong that you don't know it by default? Guess what? The founders of the country, think about it. They didn't know that the slaves was going to get free, but they wrote the law for them to get free. So somewhere in their spirit, they knew man was created equal. They knew. Y'all want to play games? Oh yeah, they had slaves, man. They had slaves. They knew. They didn't keep them forever. Clearly, they freed them. Oh man, it was safe for a long time. All right, man. It's been a long time in the world. The world's been going on. So 200-300 years for a group of people to be moved around. It's not a oh man, don't forgive me or anything. No, but at the end of the day, the law is reigns supreme, and they call it the supreme law of the land. That constitution that freed them, right? The supreme law of the land got them free. The supreme law of the land still free to this day. They didn't go backwards yet. They ain't went backwards. They had another law introduced in 1960 something. So how they less free now? But see, it's about evolution, and they understood that. They understood progressiveness. Are you going to be a majority or a minority? Some people say, oh, what's the parties? You got to do your research. But last time we checked, there is a party that there's a party that actually said they didn't want no taxes from the beginning. And there is a party, the wolf in sheep's clothing, has said we have to take from the rich and give to the poor. And that's why we can control minds that way. Y'all don't want to hear this. Oh, man, no, trust Christian. Don't say it like that. I know some Democrats. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Which one of them isn't for welfare? Huh? Which one isn't? Which one's gonna give you the apathetic sound? Oh yeah, everybody's not created equal. Some people need a handout. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Feel free to step up your game. Make it a point to become a majority. Make it a point to become aware. Make it a point to get involved in all the organizations locally that you can. Your city commission, your local mayor, going to meet your local mayor, writing your local mayor a message. If you have a business in that local area, connecting with the city planning commissioner, all of these different things. Definitely want to make it a point to get in contact with, congressmen, senators, anyone that's in your local area. People think these things are arbitrary, and that's why they're getting smashed. So we look forward to hearing from you all. Feel free to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com for a consultation. Christian at trustchristian.com. Peace and joy.